Heavy breaths racked Haru's chest as he jolted awake, feeling as if he had just escaped from a nightmare. But this nightmare was real. He lay there, drenched from head to toe, the cold sea breeze biting into his skin. Sand clung to his face and arms, his hair matted with seawater. He coughed violently, the salty taste burning his throat. Struggling to sit up, Haru looked around. A vast beach stretched before him, but it wasn't peaceful. Not far from where he lay, massive boulders lay scattered, charred black, reeking of something recently incinerated. Some cracks in the ground still smoked, ash drifting lazily in the wind. He tried to recall what had happened, the battle, the tsunami, the roar. A violent tremor, and then darkness. Instinctively, Haru clenched his fist. He could feel something cold and solid in his palm. When he opened it, a strange metal fragment gleamed under the faint moonlight. It bore mysterious marking symbols that looked like an ancient script or an encrypted code. "What is this?" he murmured, eyes fixated on the small, yet enigmatic object. The ground beneath him still trembled ever so slightly, as if the aftershocks of an earthquake hadn't completely subsided. But Haru knew better. This wasn't a normal earthquake. Looking further ahead, he saw the massive footprints embedded deep into the sand, each large enough to swallow an entire car. His chest tightened. An invisible fear crept up his spine. Godzilla, the legendary monster, had been here. He had seen it. Not just seen it, had been right in front of him, in the middle of its battle. And now, somehow, he was still alive. But why? He took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm. He couldn't stay here much longer. If a creature like Godzilla had been here, then others might be close by, and no one knew what could happen next. Suddenly, a sound echoed from the distant tree line. Haru froze, heart pounding. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the waves. It was footsteps, and they were getting closer. Haru didn't have time to think. He immediately turned, stumbling slightly on the damp sand. Fear gripped his chest, but he couldn't stop. His instinct screamed that something dangerous was approaching. The beach stretched endlessly, with only one way out: the forest ahead. Haru sprinted toward it, ignoring the sharp pebbles cutting into his bare feet. He had no idea what he was running from, only that he needed to get away. But just as he stepped into the tree line, a shadow flickered across his vision. Haru skidded to a halt, heart pounding. He turned his head, eyes scanning the darkness. The air felt unnaturally heavy. Then, from between the trees, a group of figures emerged. Dressed entirely in black, they stood still and silent, as if they had been watching him for a long time. One figure stepped forward, their cold gaze locking onto Haru. Under the moonlight, their face was partially obscured by a mask, revealing only a pair of piercing eyes. "You've seen too much," a deep, commanding voice declared. "If you continue, not even Godzilla can protect you." Haru took a step back, his fingers tightening around the strange metal fragment. The atmosphere around him seemed to freeze. These people were no ordinary bystanders. "Who are you?" Haru asked, trying to keep his voice steady, though he couldn't hide his tension. The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, his eyes flickered toward Haru's hand, a glint of interest flashing in them as he noticed what Haru was holding. "What you have doesn't belong to you," he said, his tone sharper. "Hand it over." A chilling realization settled over Haru. If he gave them the fragment, he might never learn the truth. But if he refused, he might not get the chance to escape. A cold wind swept through the trees, carrying the weight of an impending confrontation. Haru's next move could change everything. Haru instinctively took a step back, gripping the cold metal fragment tightly. The black-clad figures remained motionless, surrounding him like an unbreakable wall. Running wasn't an option. He knew he couldn't be faster than them. Who are they? What do they want from me? The questions swirled in his mind as he desperately searched for an escape route. But before he could react, someone lunged at him from behind. A sharp pain shot through his arm. A surge of electricity coursed through his body. Haru gasped, but no sound came out. His vision blurred. His limbs went limp. The world around him faded into nothingness. Darkness swallowed him whole. Haru awoke to a throbbing pain in his temple. His head was spinning, and his body felt heavy as if a massive weight was pressing down on him. He tried to move, but his wrists were tightly bound to a chair by cold metal restraints. A flickering yellow light above illuminated the small, bare room, no windows. Just steel walls, a single heavy metal door, and a one-way mirror reflecting his pale, disoriented face. "Where am I?" Haru swallowed hard, his heartbeat quickening. He struggled against the restraints, but they didn't budge. The metal fragment, the only thing he had, was gone. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. The steel door clicked and slowly swung open. A man in a white lab coat stepped inside, calmly adjusting his glasses. Behind him, two black-clad guards stood motionless, their expressions unreadable. "You're finally awake," the man said, his voice smooth yet calculating. "We have a lot to talk about." Haru held his breath. He had fallen into the hands of an organization he knew nothing about. And worse, he had no idea if he could ever escape. Haru was blindfolded and escorted in silence. The men in black said nothing, but he could feel the danger in every step they took. The faint tremors beneath the ground, the distant hum of machinery. This was no ordinary place. He tried to gauge his surroundings, but it was useless. Darkness and the sound of crashing waves fading in the distance disoriented him. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the ground beneath his feet changed from soft sand to cold, hard metal. Beep, an electronic chime echoed, followed by the hiss of a sliding door. A gust of frigid air rushed past, carrying the sharp scent of metal and chemicals. Haru was shoved forward, and as he stumbled to regain his footing, the blindfold was ripped away. What he saw made his blood run cold. A vast chamber bathed in harsh white light. Walls covered in digital screens displaying incomprehensible streams of data. But the most terrifying sight was the massive creature imprisoned at the center of the room. A monster unlike any he had ever seen. Its scaly, charcoal gray hide gleamed under the artificial light. Its hulking frame was packed with muscle, every inch of its body radiating raw power. Its glowing red eyes weren't just alive, they were seething with restrained fury. Thick metal cables coiled around its limbs, biting into its flesh, pulsing with high-voltage currents. The beast convulsed, letting out a pained roar, but it couldn't break free. Haru held his breath. "They're torturing it," he whispered. "Not exactly," a voice spoke from behind him. Haru spun around. A middle-aged man, clad in a pristine white lab coat, stepped forward. His eyes were sharp, and his smile carried a calculated edge, returning it into a weapon. Haru snapped his head toward him, horror spreading across his face. "What are you doing? Don't you realize how dangerous this is?" The man simply chuckled, offering no explanation. Instead, he gestured toward a nearby technician. Immediately, the intensity of the electric current increased, and the restrained monster writhed in agony. This time, its roar was louder, shaking the entire facility. The floor trembled beneath them. Haru swallowed hard. A terrifying thought crept into his mind: what would happen if this thing broke free? And more importantly, could Godzilla sense its presence? From the depths of the ocean, an unnatural energy pulsed through the abyss. The frigid waters trembled, and the creatures of the deep scattered in terror, fleeing from an unseen force. Godzilla's eyes snapped open. An invisible shockwave rippled through its massive frame, sending an unfamiliar discomfort crawling through its body. This was no ordinary seismic shift, no mere tectonic movement. This was something artificial, something that didn't belong to the natural world. Godzilla stirred, its colossal form causing underwater currents to swirl chaotically. Lifting its head, its glowing amber eyes pierced through the darkness of the deep. A strange hum resonated in the water like distant echoes of a signal not meant to be heard. It had felt this before. The ancient titan was more than just an apex predator, it was a guardian, a force tied to the very balance of the planet. Whenever something threatened that balance, Godzilla knew. And this time, the threat was unlike anything it had ever encountered. The ocean around it grew restless, currents twisted and turned in erratic patterns, as if the sea itself was crying out. Above the surface, the sky was shifting, dark clouds converged, swallowing the moon, and strong winds began to howl. Godzilla roared. The deep, guttural sound rumbled through the abyss, sending shockwaves across the ocean for miles. The waters trembled in response, echoing the primal call of an ancient god. It had to move. The sense of danger grew stronger, an irresistible pull drawing it forward. Was it a new enemy, a man-made threat, or another titan rising from slumber? It didn't matter. With a powerful thrust, Godzilla surged forward, its sheer size displacing millions of tons of water. Each swing of its tail created tsunamis, tearing through everything in its path. Whoever dared to disturb the balance of nature would soon face the wrath of the king of monsters. Godzilla's roar echoed across the ocean, a primal warning cutting through the chaos of nature. But deep within the secret underwater bays, that sound was muffled, blocked by thick steel walls and the constant hum of digital screens. Haru clenched his fists. He couldn't just stand by anymore. Hearing the scientist's words, were turning it into a weapon. A surge of anger burned within him. These people weren't just imprisoning monsters. They were torturing them, transforming them into tools of war. But why were they preparing for a battle? And their target, could it be Godzilla? Haru scanned the room. The massive research lab was bathed in cold, artificial light from flickering control panels. White-coated scientists moved back and forth, completely absorbed in their work, paying him no attention. The black-clad guards stood watch near the exits, weapons at the ready. He knew he didn't have much time. Fear gnawed at him, but Haru understood one thing: he was the only one who could do something. If Godzilla had sensed danger, then time was running out. If he didn't act now, there might not be another chance. Taking a deep breath, he steadied himself. He needed to gather intel who these people were, what their true objective was, and most importantly, how to stop them. But first, he had to find a way out of here. His eyes darted toward a door at the far end of the lab, where a few scientists had just exited. As it slid open, he caught a glimpse of a long corridor leading deeper into the facility. If there was any place that held the real secrets, it wouldn't be in the main lab, it would be further inside. Should he risk it? The answer came immediately. He had no choice. Carefully, Haru took a step back, pretending to examine a nearby screen. As a passing researcher walked by, he quickly fell and stepped behind them, blending into the movement of the crowd. When the door opened again, he slipped through just before it sealed shut. He was in the corridor now. This time, his heart pounded not with fear but with determination. He wasn't just trying to escape, he was going to uncover everything. If there was even a chance to warn Godzilla and put an end to this experiment, he would take it, no matter what it cost.